We're alone in the desert with a horse with no name. It's been 3 days and I've given the fucker a name. Welcome back to Smugs Part 35.
So, I'm just assuming that we've done the role play we want to do at the campsite.
I think so.
Which largely involved slapping Cyrano around with the very scant amount of water that can be pulled out of the ground in this region.
A well worth use of a 5th level spell slot.
Well, you also slept, so you got it back. So, you know.
Oh yeah, that's the only reason it happened.
So you travel for about another 8 hours and finally see a building. At least you think it's a building.
I'm not sure if I see a building or if I'm hallucinating.
You are, I am.
It's not so much hallucination, but this place looks more like a junk pile than it does a building. It's just imagine that they took sheet metal off of mining equipment that broke down, various bits and bobs off the machinery that no longer works, and kind of spot welded all that together, along with, useless signs and other bits of rusted metal. Not much in the way of wood because, well, let's face it, there's no wood to be found in this area. But yeah, just a lot of discarded mining equipment loosely arranged in the shape of a building.
Apparently somebody doesn't know how to do architecture.
Yep.
That is the second shittiest looking building I've ever seen.
You kind of look at it, and even the roofs, even the shingles on the roof, look like they would, if it ever actually rained around here, which it doesn't, it looked like they would do more to funnel water directly into the middle of the bar rather than keep it out.
I think I lived in a place like this once.
I am now expecting us to run into a carriage on one wheel driven by an ostrich by a dwarf lifting a lot of leather.
No, we're not doing that. But as you continue to approach this, you do see that there apparently are 4 walls to this thing, and they do have a loose approximation of your typical saloon swinging gate door that you see in pretty much every Wild West movie ever. And seated in a chair, you can't make out much of the form because it's underneath a huge freaking white poncho. But you can tell that it is a very large form, just kind of seated in a chair with a large sombrero over the head. And you get the feeling that it's watching you.
I'm genuinely not sure if this is a reference to something that might happen later or not.
What are you looking at?
You just kind of see an arm reach out from the poncho, push one finger up to kind of lift up the brim on the sombrero to get a better look at you. Then it goes down and the arm just kind of disappears back under the poncho. But looking at the arm, you can tell that this is not a small individual in the least.
Nice hat.
There's no response. You're not getting a response from this guy other than that.
That is quite a substantial amount of hat.
That hat is the second biggest hat I've ever seen. Next to this Spinnox.
Roll me a perception check while you're here.
Okay.
Okay.
Whoop, that's a nat 20.
That is a nat 1.
Ciro's too distracted by the hat.
Snorri's best roll so far, 17.
Well, again, he's sobering up.
Okay, so you notice immediately. Well, okay, Cyrano does not notice this. But both Snorri and Yuki notice that the foundation of this building is tightly packed gravel, which is very which you look at the rest of the building and then notice that, you notice that doesn't quite fit. And Yuki, you may not know much about building construction, but with that roll, you can tell that the foundation might go quite a bit deeper than you would assume a dilapidated building like this should have. But as you two are sizing up the place, you're drawing the attention of the individual inside the poncho.
Snorri, keep him talking. I'm gonna look around.
You're right. What piss-weak ale do you have here?
And you get a very, it's a saloon.
Strawberry sundaes, then.
And roll me persuasion, Snorri.
I'm gonna roll an investigation to see what I can find.
Persuasion. That's a 19.
22.
Okay. Yeah, Yuki definitely notices that the foundation is much sturdier than a building like this would have any right to have. And Snorri, unless you really just want to role play talking to this guy out, you manage to keep him talking for a bit while Yuki actually goes to look around.
Let's say, at least for the next 5 minutes, I've engaged him in an argument about saloons provide nothing but piss-weak ale and they're a bunch of pansies.
He just kind of laughs at you. Miners don't seem to care much. You're welcome to go in and see what you can find, though.
There's this frumpy Polaroid. Don't mind if I do.
So do you guys go in, or?
Might as well.
Okay.
Oh, he's going in. He's going in to make a point.
I want that hat. I want that hat.
You have a hat.
Yes, but not that one.
Your hat's nicer.
It's in this right channel. I am. Everybody see that?
Yep.
I see
Yep.
it.
Okay, that is the inside of this place.
A little cramped in there.
Yeah, well, I mean, those are actually, those tables are spaced about 10 feet apart. There's quite a bit of space in this place. But however, the inside really doesn't look much better than the outside does. You've got the holes you see in the walls there are acting as windows, kind of, even though they're really just areas where they couldn't quite fit things together. So they've got gaps in the walls.
It's a lot of whistling going on in here.
Yep, there's no glass in them, so it's just a hole in the wall, basically. You got a few fans kind of hung up on the ceiling, but they're more apparently there for decoration because they can't move too quickly because you don't have a great electricity setup out here, so they're just kind of moving on their own.
Wobble, wobble, wobble.
But you do see one massive freaking bar top. And you see the doors you entered in are at the bottom of that picture, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Across, just directly across from you is one massive bar top with just shelves upon shelves behind him of various liquors and alcohols and the like. Some of them you've never heard of, and some of them Snorri has heard of and laughed at, and some of them Snorri has heard of and probably giving a discerning nod, for they are actually pretty strong alcohols.
They have Fredo's circumstantial evidence.
Is that a crystal skull over there?
No, it is not.
Okay.
But you can see that basically that those look like just repurposed bookshelves is what they look like. And they're made out of metal, just like everything else really around here, since, wood, really hard to come by unless you bring it in. And all the wood has other purposes because, how things go.
The terrible deeds we could do in here with heat metal.
Oh, yeah. But you are in the desert, so things are already ungodly hot. Because remember, it's been 8 hours since morning, so you're in the middle of the afternoon.
So we're sitting in an oven, is what you're telling me.
Yes, I am.
God,
Okay.
Yuki's fur must be just frizzes at this point.
But just remember, you're sitting in an oven that does have some air circulation. It's not a lot, but it has some. But it's also shaded.
Snorri's old.
We're sitting in a shitty convection oven.
Yes, you are.
Snorri's old. He's still cold.
Well,
Yeah.
However, what might particularly give you some pause, especially you, Cyrano, you see a blue-skinned kobold manning the bar, basically. And right now, that blue-skinned kobold is laser-focused on looking at you while he sits there and wipes out a mug with a rag that looks like it hadn't been washed in about 2 weeks.
Ah, he's adding flavour to the mugs.
Yeah, something like that. And on the left side of the bar top, that is a gate, basically, that opens and closes so the people can get in and out. Behind that, you see a door that just has the word storage written on it. And I mean written, basically. They didn't put up a sign. They just scrawled the word storage on it. And another, well, let's just say unidentifiable person in another chair sitting right in front of it who is also kind of looking at you. About half of the bar stools have patrons on them right now, who are all mostly lost in kind of their own world, and about half the table, just about every table has a person at it at least. A couple tables have 2, a couple have 3, and a couple have 4, but right now it's mostly people drinking to themselves. There are 2 empty tables, one on each side, though. You also notice that the entire bottom of the floor, a bunch of just kind of, you'd hesitate to call it sawdust or sand, but it's just basically just loose material left there to kind of sort of soak up any vomit that hits the floor.
I feel like we're in that mongrel's cage, except it's also an oven. Are we in hell? I think we're in hell.
It could be.
Yeah, pansy, you don't know what hell is.
And as you clear the door, you see several of the people at the tables and a few of the people up there at the bar just kind of take a quick look back, notice you. They kind of size you up a little bit, then go back to their drinks. So now make me a perception check just in general as you look around.
Okay.
That is another nat 1.
And that's another 20.
16.
What is your perception bonus there for Yuki?
+4.
Mine's, let's see here. Mine is mine is +3.
So as you look around the bar, you notice Yuki mostly notices things. Snorri and Yuki both notice that the beer is just lined up in kegs underneath the bar. You can see the kobold up there just every now and then reach down and pour one out and slide it over to a patron at the bar. You notice that the figure sitting in front of the gate at the end of the bar is actually carrying a blunderbuss, not so discreetly hidden under the poncho. You also notice that Snugno is not actually cleaning any mugs with the rag. That is just a show. You see him kind of pick up a small wand, and he taps the mugs with them to get them clean.
Okay.
Gate.
And Yuki specifically notices that the kobold, he likes standing in one spot a whole lot. As in, he will. You notice that he scrambles off to go do anything he has to do, but then goes right back to his one spot.
She relayed that as quietly as possible to the team.
Still want that hat.
Well, there's a second one on the person over by the gate.
My God. I will have the hats.
Yeah, that might be a thought. I'm going to start getting into a hat off so I can slip past the bar and see what's going on.
Sir, your hat is glorious. I must know where you have acquired it from. For I wish to have a hat similarly mighty to yours.
The individual pulls pretty much the exact same maneuver that the one outside did. You just see another arm pop out of the poncho. One finger lifts up the brim to the thing.
Sai unwittingly joins yet another gang.
Kind of stares at you for a second. Spits into a spittoon at the floor near feet. And takes a very slow chew on the tobacco in their mouth as they stare at you. To which the little blue kobold goes, "Hey, you guys gonna sit down and drink or what?"
What have you got?
You notice that the kobold is a little nervous with you standing there.
Before her size is 6'1", he towers over this kobold.
At which point, the individual in the poncho stands up and has another 11 inches on that.
Oh boy.
And just because the kobold said it, Snorri stands up to his full, probably about 5 foot or something, and just glares at him. Famous the opposite. I'm not going to take this insolence standing up. Sits down.
To which point the kobold grips the rag in the glass just a little bit tighter and goes, "Have a seat. We'll be right with you."
But I do want one of those hats because it is muddy.
You just hear a growl from the now standing behemoth over in the corner.
It's also if Snorri could slap Suno on the head, he would. I'm just assuming he's outside the slapping distance.
You can also notice that the patrons at the bar are starting to slowly readjust themselves so they are standing or sitting at their tables as far away from you as possible. They're just kind of sliding their chairs over an inch or two at a time.
Got a little roomy in here, didn't it?
Once again, the kobold just kind of, this time he gestures to one of the empty tables. "Have a seat, we'll be with you."
Let's sit down. But I want that hat.
Go sit down. Go sit down.
Sitting down.
And there are a couple of extra chairs at the table, but there would be more than enough if all three of you even just wanted your own chair, but since Snorri comes equipped with one.
Snorri just basically launches forward, knocking the chair out of the way to take his place at the table.
And once you sit down, the kobold visibly relaxes. The behemoth over by the gate just kind of sits back down. And the kobold rings a little bell. A moment later, a dark-skinned human woman, pops out. The kobold looks at her, then just kind of nods his head in your general direction. So she lifts up the gate to the bar. She closes the door behind her, then lifts up the gate. Comes over and says, "Okay, what we got? If you want a mug of beer, any type, that'll be a silver. You want hard liquor, 5 silver. And if you want water, that's a gold for a shot."
Water's that much of a commodity in this place, huh?
It took a 5th level spell to get the equivalent of a glassful.
How are you able to get beer out here if you can't even get water?
We truck it in.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have a mug of. I'll have a tankard of moose urine ale. You do stock moose urine, right? From the Moose Urine Brewery.
I mean, they are in a desert.
I believe the Moose Urine Brewery was in a desert.
It's like, sure, we've got moose urine.
Snow just slaps down the money, just puts especially to put in a demand for the hardest alcohol they've got, the stuff that can knock the hairs off your chest.
Dragon's breath it is. Anything for you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm the designated driver.
So she picks up the 6 silver, walks back, looks at Snug Nose, smirks, and goes, "Hey, they actually ordered the moose urine. The boss owes you 20 gold." So he quickly pours the drinks. Well, he pours the moose urine ale first, a nice tankard of that stuff. Sets it on the counter.
I can smell it from here.
He dons a gas mask and thick rubber gloves and goes up on a ladder to the top shelf, pulls down a small box, opens up the box and there's a little padlock on it, little combination lock, opens up the lock, pulls out a flask of something. You can't tell what material this is made out of. And then pulls out what looks like a crystalline glass. Pours the shot of this stuff, and you actually see it start to eat away at the crystal as he pours it in. The woman grabs the shot glass and a pair of about foot-long tongs, grabs a tankard of ale, very carefully sets the dragon's breath in front of Snorri, making very special care not to actually slam it down on the table, and places the moose urine right in front of Cyrano. Then she walks back. You see her pull out a small metal box from behind the bar as the kobold puts everything back and then puts that box that holds the dragon's breath back on the top shelf. You see her drop the money in the box, lock it back up, and give me a perception check
Okay.
as she goes back through the door.
19.
$23.
13.
Okay. All three of you noticed that she was having significant, I don't want to say difficulty because difficulty isn't the right word, but there was some significant manipulation handled in opening the door from this side. Yuki and Cyrano both noticed that there was something she was having to do with the handle. Not specifically with the handle, but you could kind of tell as she turned the knob, she was having to lift a lever with her thumb as she opened the door.
It's like operating my weed whacker.
Yeah. And then she just goes back in the storage room. So now you have your drinks, and the conversations at the tables have kind of started up amongst the few people talking to each other again.
So now he just throws back the drink and just downs it in one.
Give me a con save. With anybody else, this would actually be a con save of actual danger.
Sorry. Con save. Oh, God. This is where I curse Snark for having the best stats. Snowy came the second. 18.
18. Okay. You managed to not cough up, as this stuff is actually more potent than your brew.
Damn.
Damn, this is fresh.
This stuff is literally it's literally called Dragon's Breath because it was harvested from a Dragon's Breath weapon. A poison breath weapon.
Oh boy.
The poison to kill Cusco. Cusco's
Yes,
poison.
Yes. So yeah, they actually do have some potent stuff at hand.
Ah, good old moose urine.
However, seeing you knock back that shot, the kobold and the characters sitting down next to the gate, you can see their jaws drop. Snugno very quietly hands the other person a few gold pieces.
Mm.
It's at this point, Snorri shall pull out a flask he had secreted himself for general purposes of his own brew, enhanced, of course, with the new techniques.
Mhm.
Anyone want to try something of similar bite? You also know the container is smoking at the moment.
Absolutely nobody takes you up on that offer. They saw what Snorri just downed, and it has actually killed 2 people who tried it. It's very much based on the stuff from the first Hero's Quest.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
It's at this point, Snorri shall unscrew the cap, just swirls it around, just let a bit just drop out to the point it hits the table, sizzles, and puts a hole in it.
I need a couple of con saves here. Oh, that's a failure. So, at the tables next to you, you ended up being seated on the right side of the room at the table that was farthest away from the bar. At the 3 tables next to you, one table has 1 person, one table has 2, and one table has 3. At each table, 1 member gets a whiff from what you've just poured out, and it ate through the table. The Dragon's Breath would do the same thing, by the way. And they cannot hold their alcohol, and they vomit immediately. What you have just pervaded, you have just assaulted their senses.
Sweet.
Snorri has done good work today.
Yes, he has.
Story never does good work. Do good work.
Not on purpose.
No.
So, do you want to do anything now that you're just kind of, I guess you're in the mode of just kind of people watching at this point? Sigh in his tankard of moose urine, which actually is legitimate moose urine.
It's,
Brewed straight from the desert.
as his voice now is turning his attention to crying, just going, chug, chug, chug.
Chug. Sai will chug the moose urine.
Actually, Sai, how much of that can you handle?
I've been handling moose urine all the time on my journeys.
You're a professional piss taker, aren't you?
That's what they tell me.
Give us a con save.
Let's see here.
Not the custom dice.
That is a 22.
Okay, you do not end up with a very bad case of gas. Which, chugging beer, and especially that beer, it's named moose urine because it's extra frothy. You guys are going to hand me that, I'm going to use it. Anyway.
How much head? It's all head.
It's all head, baby.
Everyone has decided that Sai is a tourist, and he's just gonna fucking roll with it.
So, what do you do now?
Something tells me there's gotta be something in the back, although I don't know.
I know Snugno is the one. I've heard tale of Snugno.
What have you heard?
Oh, just that he may have had an interest in past.
He just gives him a look.
He might know a git.
What do you have to do with him?
See what happens.
So, in other words, we're probably going to need a distraction while somebody goes for that door. I can at least slip invisible, but probably a good idea to get my eyes off of me.
We need a distraction of some sort.
I'm going to say you might as well eavesdrop.
Okay.
Okay.
It may not help you with your current thing, but you may as well eavesdrop on the various people.
Okay.
Roll perception, probably.
Roll perception.
18.
Eh. $17.
I didn't hear snoring.
No, he's not listening in. He's just lamenting the quality of life of having to be sober again.
Ah, okay. Well, what you notice is that everybody in the bar appears to be minors. And I do mean people that actually work in a mine and not underage people. Thank you very much.
To make that joke. Miners, not miners!
And you can tell this because they've got the tools of the trade just kind of hanging off their belt still. You also notice that without variation, they will have a fine layer of dust that is either white, yellow, or black, just kind of clinging to their clothes and mixed up in their hair. And as you sit there and listen, you hear, you notice that one table has been getting a lot of extra rounds of alcohol because they just discovered a new saltpeter vein, and thus they're going to get to keep working.
A saltpeter vein, you say?
Mm-hmm.
How many people are at that table?
That's 4. You also notice that some very, very drunk people are just moaning and wailing that the recent just hot air, because as far as they're concerned, they're very drunk. So, they can only think recently, and they've been getting nothing but hot, dry air. They're blaming the Kingdom of the Winds for sending nothing but that air to the region. Because, come on, they're the Kingdom of Wind. Surely they can send us some cool air every now and then.
I can't imagine why they're suddenly full of hot air.
But also, yet another table is mentioning how they really need to get their bosses to actually talk to the Kingdom of Winds to see if they can get an air car system up. Because as far as that's what they consider that's what they think the Kingdom of Winds can actually do. You're not getting a whole lot. It'll actually help until someone says, just kind of nudges his friend and goes, "Hey, haven't you ever wanted to see what's behind that door over there?" And their friend just kind of smacks him up the back of the head and says, "Don't even talk about that. You saw what happened to the last person that even suggested that within earshot of the goons out there." And everything else that you're hearing is related to just general talk about the mines that these people work at, and the various conditions, and the fact that they've actually resorted to bringing in some slave labor to help work the mines.
Slave labor.
I don't like the sound of that.
Also a saltpeter mine. Wait, which ones are talking about saltpeter?
The ones, I mean, you can only hear the tables in your side of the bar. You can't really hear anything clear from the other side. It's the table that's like 2 tables directly north of you. if you look at the picture.
It's at this point Snorri, so grumble on about being sober, and then punts Cyrano in the arm, casting guidance on him. So the next time you use a ability check, you can add 1d4 to it.
Okay.
So, if you want, you guys seem to be at kind of a loss for what to do here.
I have ideas, it's just some of them are terrible.
Yeah.
But I will give you the chance for an idea roll if you want to take it.
I mean, there's a saltpeter mine, and saltpeter is explosive, and the
Mhm.
alcohol is also flammable.
It's also you have a cleric who has access to control water.
That is true.
So imagine there's enough water in the ale for that to be controllable.
I may have had a dumb idea. Hang on. I'm gonna message you something, Raven.
Oh no.
I'm launching my attack.
Phenomenon.
You see what I'm thinking there? Like, it would require some finicky timing, but it could cause a distraction and apparently not be our fault.
Can I get away with saying that Snorri's just a connoisseur of the ales? He knows what basically the proof of the drink is just by looking at how people are drinking it.
I mean, you can also realize that they did offer water for sale. Which would indicate that they've got a supply. And if you want, considering your particular talents, if you want, go ahead and roll me a perception check.
That's a 17.
You can tell that it's coming from one of the kegs underneath the bar. When some of the rare instances people actually order water, you can see the barkeep go over to the middle of the row of kegs, and that's where he's getting it from.
So at this time, when the barkeep isn't, imagine that Snorri has been keeping enough attention to which kegs have been taken from for water, for ale, and etc., etc. He's got a good clue to which one's which, and he sees how long He takes for the kobold to do his business. So it's he waits for a moment, gives a little prayer to the great brewery in the sky as he's blessing his own drink, or rather any future drinks, and basically switches up all the kegs so the water's in the ale and the ale's in the water.
So you switch up the do you mix the kegs or do you just switch them?
They're just switched.
They're just switched. Okay.
I hope this works the way I intended to.
I hope so. I think because that's my only fifth level slot.
Okay, so I'm going to say we've been going about another hour.
Yep.
It's pretty close. So I kind of know what's going to happen since you did that. Kind of know what's going to happen. And I say we take a break here, and when we come back, we can continue on from trapped kegs, basically.
Excellent. So this is the end of part 2 of session 35. So until next time, beware the drink. Later.
Later.
Bye-bye.